It's happy hour again from Central City, New Orleans. Hello, I'm Grant Morris. In the next 60 minutes, you'll get to meet just 3 of the many thousands of fascinating people who live in New Orleans. And you get to hear some music as well at the end of the show. You might conclude New Orleans is a great city where people love to talk, have fun, and enjoy great music. But you probably know that already. So let's get right on with doing nothing but enjoying the next 60 minutes of happy hour together. We're here at Casa Borrega, which is on Aretha Castle Haley Boulevard at Felicity Street. Casa Borrega is a bar, a nightclub, where you can hear Latin jazz mostly and Latin music, and an amazing restaurant where you can have great food as well. My 3 guests sitting around the table here are a bunch of extremely eclectic New Orleanians, and I'd like to introduce you to them right now. Michael Arata sitting across from me. Hello, Michael.
Hello.
Michael is making his second appearance on Happy Hour for a good reason. Michael's an actor and attorney, a film producer, and is currently embarking on his newest career, a TV producer and animal conservationist.
That's right.
Is that accurate enough?
That's pretty close.
Pretty good.
I'm back because of the pay's so good.
The pay is good. Listen to this. Having acted in over 70 movies, is that correct now? Because last time I said 50.
Well, I've done
70.
one since then.
71.
Yeah.
What have you done since?
I was in Kenya. I was in my own movie.
Are you in your own movie in Kenya?
Yeah.
Really? Playing the part of an elephant?
Michael Arata. No.
Michael.
Yeah.
So you would say himself.
That's
on
correct.
IMDb.
That's correct. Second
I've always
one.
wanted to be himself. Have you guys ever been himself? You've both been in movies.
I've never. No.
No, Paul, have you been himself?
Yes, it is a daunting role.
He really
it's
is.
Horrible.
I think it's the worst.
You can't live up to it.
I was terrible.
Anyway, Michael's acted in over 70 movies and he's produced successful horror and comedy features. Just returned from Africa, where Michael's been producing and filming a pilot for a TV series about endangered species created and shot by fellow New Orleanians. It's pretty interesting, the whole story.
Thank you.
So last time you were here, you were off to do this show with a whole bunch of guys from New Orleans to save, what was it, the giraffe or the lion? The elephant.
The wild elephant.
The wild elephant.
Yeah.
Wait till you hear this story, you guys. This is an amazing tale.
I'm hooked.
All
right. I'm ready.
And the story is incredible. Sitting to my left, this just goes to show that you never know who you're talking to in New Orleans. You've probably seen this guy. Renzo, how do I pronounce your name? Renzo Amariz?
That's it.
Renzo Amariz, you've probably seen this guy at the Apple Store in Lakeside Mall.
Right.
Okay, now wait till you hear who he really is. Renzo is a filmmaker who's working on his second feature film, I Am Luchador. Is that how it's pronounced?
Luchador.
Luchador.
Which is a Mexican wrestler.
Luchador. Ha! That's got everybody's attention.
Yo soy luchador.
It's based on a short film of the same name. Renzo also made a film called The Local 504, which you've never seen. The reason you've never seen it is an amazing story itself worthy of a movie. Okay, now they're blending our drinks, I think, here.
Yep. God bless them. God bless them. Let's just be thankful.
It's a juicer. They're making juice drinks. Okay, prior to moving to New Orleans, now listen to this. To make movies, Renzo was a photographer in the U.S. Navy and served in Desert Storm, as well as the conflicts in Yugoslavia, Kosovo, and Somalia.
Right.
Can you believe that you're looking at a guy right across the table who's actually been in war in all these places?
The crazy thing,
crazy.
he and I have both been to Somalia.
Yeah.
Okay. That's weird right there.
Isn't that weird?
I was going back and forth for a while between Somalia and Yugoslavia. And
did you ever get them confused?
Yeah, I was so tired. It sounds
You
funny.
go Somalia.
I was so tired from the experience of going back and forth, that at one point I was in the plane. I was sitting in the back, and I asked where we're going, and I don't remember now where they said we were going, but my response was, "Is that the hot one or the cold one?"
Oh my God! Wow, you spent too much time over there. Renzo's war photographs have been featured on the front pages of every major newspaper in the world, and in major magazines, including Newsweek and Time magazine.
That's it.
This is going to be an interesting show so far, isn't it? Even where we are up to now.
It is becoming apparent to me who is the dead weight at this table. Go ahead and read my lovely paragraph.
It's me. But listen to this.
It.
Paul Meany is also here. Paul Meany is the singer, keyboard player, and frontman for New Orleans band Mutemath. Mutemath made their first recording in 2004. In 2007, their song Spotlight was featured in the mega hit movie Twilight and went all the way to #1 on the Billboard singles chart. I wouldn't call that dead weight exactly, would you?
No, I never made it to #1 on the Billboard.
#1 Billboard.
This is certainly very
single.
Inflated, and it's not true, but I like it.
That
it
is
helps
true.
me hang
I
with the
saw
table,
it on
so go for it.
Wikipedia. I saw it on Wikipedia.
Oh, and that's where it's definitely concrete.
It's got to be true, right? You had a song. You had a song on Twilight, right?
No, we did have a song.
You had a song in the movie Twilight. Twilight was a mega
I'm
smash
not correcting anything. You should just go. I'm
and
very
it was a
intrigued
number.
by
And it
what's
was a
being
#1 hit on the Billboard Hot Singles chart.
I don't think so, but that's okay.
Are you serious?
It's okay.
What
yeah.
was its highest chart position it got?
No.
I'm telling you
We never
honestly,
got-
it was #1, really.
Okay, I like
I
your
have to-
version of it. Let's go with that.
It is true. It's on Wikipedia. I'll show you.
It's
I've got
okay.
it. Look. I've got it right here. Have a look.
No, this is. If this was worse than the truth, I would be jumping. I should just be keeping my mouth shut,
Okay,
right?
should have.
Yes.
Really, but
Yes. I'm
okay.
fixing
Okay,
it's not
tell me,
broken.
tell me if what any of these things aren't true then. Among the thousands of live appearances Mutemath have played on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno, true.
That is true, and it's
David
a
Letterman,
great time.
David Letterman.
Yeah.
Conan O'Brien,
Oh yeah.
Jimmy Kimmel.
Yep.
Okay, so you've been on all these shows.
We have, yeah.
Have you also toured relentlessly to packed houses across the country and around the world?
I'm on the witness stand.
Now
here.
remember,
Yes.
you're under
Yeah,
oath.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Yes, you have, correct?
Say
have-
it.
I
Say
have-
it,
I
for
have
God's
toured
sakes.
relentlessly.
I tell you what, this is a huge band. It's a hugely successful band that I think a lot of New Orleanians, a lot of people listening to this show might not even realize how big you are. You
Well-
guys are a superstar, arena-sized
That's
rock
that's
band.
extremely kind, but now I got to correct you. We are just a good, solid House of Blues band. That's what I like to. That's about where we are. Certainly
Okay.
aspire to the arenas. I mean, we're shooting for that. We haven't quite got there yet. We got to play Jazz Fest for the first time this year. That was
cool.
Wonderful experience. Sort of of course, a childhood dream of mine. So it came true this year. That was very nice.
What stage were you on at Jazz Fest?
I think it was the
One of those big
was
ones?
it the Acura stage? Yeah.
That's the
that's
big one.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's play right before Galactic. It was
Bloody-
nuts.
Have you ever heard this band play, Michael?
I know their song Britannia we're about to listen to.
Have you heard them, Renzo?
I have not.
You guys are going to be absolutely fucking shocked when you hear how
Okay.
good these guys are.
We can
for
curse?
real. You can.
I just
well,
found
I
out we
can.
can curse.
Yeah, you can say fucking anything you want.
Okay.
Listen to this. Mutemath's latest album, Odd Soul, is a commercial success and an artistic triumph of a band already at the top of its game that's reached new heights.
Here.
Listen to this. The official iTunes review of Odd Soul says, Paul Meany, who we're looking at here, Paul Meany's lead vocals weave around the quivering keyboards and molten bass, rising to an effortless falsetto that conveys hipster cool with a hint of prophetic vision.
Now I know that's
How
true because
about that?
I wrote that. That's definitely true.
This is an awesome album and an insanely good band. That's real. Maybe we should start off by listening to a song.
I'm intrigued.
And then
I want to
let's
hear it.
Yeah, okay.
I want to hear it.
Let's take a listen to it. Let's do it. We've never done this ever. We've never kicked off a show with a song.
I think we
ever
should.
before, but I think we should in this case.
In Mr. Meany's honor.
Let's do it. Paul, tell us about the song Britannia, which is a movie theater. We know that, and a street.
Certainly a street. Certainly my my sort of kind of a song that reflects my relationship with this city. So I kind of put it into this dysfunctional love song called Britannia.
Mutemath.
And I'll tell you my story after.
Okay.
You
Okay. What do you think of that,
man?
It's pretty good.
Did I oversell it?
No, it's great.
That's the real thing. That is the real thing. Tell us about the song first, and then we'll grill you about the rest of your life.
Okay. Yeah, that song sort of came from, I grew up here in New Orleans, and
What high school did you go to?
I went to Brother Martin.
Brother Martin.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's just my luck in the city, or it's I don't know what it is, but it's certainly my relationship with the city where sort of this yin and the yang of something enchanted and wonderful will happen, surely to be followed by something dreadful or depressing or whatever it is, like a wonderful night out in the town with my lovely new wife, and then we come back and my car's been broken into or something. I have a great time, or I'll take some friends to City Park and we're hanging out. It's like, oh, what a cool place. We take our kids to go ride on the trains, and then and then on my ride back, I get a ticket from the Eye in the Sky, and there's always this thing of, God, I got to get out of this city. Because it just is getting underneath my skin.
Well, you're blaming the city, of course.
Yeah, no, of course. I'm just blaming where I'm at.
Yeah, right.
No, yeah, I'm just blaming, of course,
Someone
whatever I
else's
can. It's
fault.
never me.
Yeah, right.
And then I love this place. I this is home. I can't go anywhere else. So this is a certain example, but I kind of just funneled it into this sort of dysfunctional love song.
Into the song. What are you saying, Britannia? You're looking. What is it? What is the chorus?
Like a loaded gun.
Like a loaded gun.
Yeah, isn't that something?
Have you been held up?
No, I haven't, thankfully. Felt like it a few times, but no, not literally.
And when did you get married?
I got married in 98.
98?
Been married 15 years. We celebrated my 15-year anniversary.
I thought you just mentioned that you just got married recently. That was...
No,
Well,
he said it very romantically. His lovely bride.
Oh, is that what you were
Yeah.
getting? Okay. It's like the #1 record. You really are married, right?
I am, yeah.
And while we were playing that song, you got able to look at my notes here from Wikipedia, where it does really say you had #1 single.
I really did
It's got
need
the
to wig
date.
me out with that. It's
got
totally
the
fine.
It's got the date even.
It's
So
okay.
It is true, though, isn't it?
Yes, if it's in Wikipedia, it is definitely true. We all know that.
Okay. So how's that? So you... Whoa. When did you find out you had this voice? Because everybody in the world wants to be a rock star, like, Freddie Mercury or you.
No. I started, I always sang since I can remember. My dad was a musician, and it was just
What did
always
he-
music
what
around
did
the
he
house.
play?
He was a guitar player. And, I grew up playing music in church. My dad was the music guy at our church, and whatever they needed filled in on that week with the drums, bass, they'd teach me a little something. So that's how I began to learn music. And
Child labor.
I've always thought, yeah, exactly. I've always thought in musical terms. So, when I first found out about U2, I knew I wanted to be in a band. I wanted to kind of
That was
chase
what started.
that
Bono.
dream. Yeah, I remember my dad was a subscriber to Time magazine, and so they were on the cover. Of,
Yeah. Been there.
Renzo.
Oh, you've been on the cover?
Renzo's been on the cover of Time.
Man, skip to something more interesting. We got someone who's been on the cover of Time
come on.
magazine.
No.
But anyway, I read
Yes.
that article of U2, and I didn't know anything about the music. All I knew was that there was this band, this idea of being a rock band. They're from the other side of the world, and they were traveling. And I remember there was a quote in there that Bono said, and it really stuck with me. I mean, I was 8 years old when I read this. But the quote is he found his voice because he wasn't good enough to sound like anyone else. And he tried. And yeah,
That's interesting.
I kind of feel like after your failed attempt at imitating other singers, you finally sort of fall into your own. That's probably
Who did you start off trying to sound like?
Huey Lewis.
What a funny thing
That
to
was
aspire
Back to the Future. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Back to the Future played a big part in my childhood, and yeah, I remember
That
that was
was
the
the
first tape I
song.
bought was Huey Lewis.
That was the very first one. So it was back in the cassette tape days.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
And what was the song from Back to the Future, the Huey Lewis?
Oh, Power of Love.
The Power of Love.
Oh, yeah.
Right. I bet you could kill that if you sang that.
I definitely killed it. Oh, I
That
did.
would sound great if you guys did that. And that would be pretty appropriate. Now, The Power of Love, wouldn't
Well,
it?
it might be,
I
actually.
can't remember the lyrics. Can you guys remember
Who's
the
done a
lyrics?
cover of that? I can't think of one.
Don't think anybody has.
No,
No,
in
come
fact,
on.
no. It's been outlawed.
And these guys could shoot the video for you.
Of
Renzo
course,
could shoot it, Michael could
absolutely,
produce it.
absolutely, absolutely.
Hey, Renzo, tell us this. We've got a million things to ask you about
Sure.
here. About one, of course, is being a war correspondent. Should we
Sure.
start with that, or should we start with the story of the movie? While we're talking about New Orleans, let's talk about the movie.
Okay.
Okay, so you shot a movie called, what's it called? The 504.
The local 504.
The local 504.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Well, it was, what happened was I had the funny idea that I wanted that domain name, and I had no reason to have it. I just saw that it was available, so I bought it. And so I was sitting on it for a while, and then one night I was writing and anybody can steal this because I'm never going to finish it, but I was writing this movie that I had an idea about a serial killer that who called himself the King of Carnival. And so during every parade, he killed somebody. He'd leave a little doubloon, and it said King of Carnival, and they can't find him and all that good stuff.
Good idea, Michael. Michael's taking notes.
No, there's a TV writer out there right now, though, who's sharpening their pen.
Yeah.
So,
Sharpening their
run with it.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I couldn't write, so I walked down the street to a friend of mine's party, and I talked to this guy who I'd met once before for about half an hour, and Sean asked me what I was doing. I told him I had a little writer's block, so I just went for a walked over to the party, and he asked me what I was going to do with the movie, and I said, I don't know. I'm just writing it right now. And he says, well, why don't you shoot it? You know enough people to shoot it. So I said, I don't have the money to create my own Mardi Gras, basically. So he said, well, just make some stupid zombie movie and shoot that. So I thought about it. I went home pretty much right after that, and I kept thinking like some stupid zombie movie, and I couldn't come up with anything that would make me happy. So I thought about Robert Rodriguez, and he said something, and I'm paraphrasing. He said something along the lines of, when he wrote El Mariachi, all he had was a suitcase, a turtle, or empty guitar case, a turtle, and a shitty town in Mexico. So he wrote about that. And I laid there in bed thinking about this zombie movie, and I'm thinking about that quote, and I thought to myself, I don't have a guitar case, a turtle, and I live in a shitty town in southern Louisiana that looks like a war zone. And then all of a sudden, as soon as I said war zone, everything clicked. And I thought, all right, so what kind of war did we have? And I remembered, I grew up, loving like those 80s Cold War movies like Red Dawn and stuff like that. And I thought about Red Dawn. It's like, well, what if the Soviets did attack, and what if they did win? And so I came up with this idea that it was present day Soviet controlled United States, and that there was a group of guys here in New Orleans after Katrina that found that because it was Katrina, that the Soviets didn't want to hold on to this, so they decided they're going to try to push them out, and they called themselves the Local 504, and using the area code and like the union system, and that happened throughout the United States with different resistance groups.
Hang on a second. Just stop there for a sec. So we're living in some sort of parallel universe where it's the present day, but the entire United States has been overrun by what was then the Soviet Union.
Correct.
Okay, how'd that happen? Or doesn't that matter how that happened? So who's the president of the United States now? Some Russian guy.
Right.
Ivan. Something.
Yeah, Ivan whoever,
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it happened.
I like it. You're already into the story. You don't need the backstory. You're already in.
And
The story starts.
And what drugs do you do normally?
Normally, I don't do any drugs. Funny enough.
No, the funny thing about the story to me so far, and chime in, you guys. You've been in wars for years. You've already been in wars for 10 years, or something, right?
Right.
That's all you did for 10 years was
that's
be
pretty,
in a war.
Yeah, just ate,
and
ate that for breakfast.
You had to go through. You had to go through the empty guitar case, the shitty town, the mariachi, El Mariachi, for you to think about war.
Right.
Which is all you've known for 10 years.
Well, it's not all I knew some other things.
Well, you were a war photographer for all that time, so you saw war close up.
Yeah, it's funny though. That whole part of life for me is weird because I look back at that almost forgetting a lot of it.
You think that's intentional to blank it out?
Not necessarily. It's just that maybe there was just so much stuff that I forgot that I remembered. Like I remembered being in Greece for like a month, and all I really remembered was like climbing Mount Olympus, this strip club in Thessaloniki, and this awesome hotel. And
hey, look, that's a good plot right there. That's better than an empty guitar case, a turtle, and
throw in some Russians and some turtles. I mean, there you go.
There were some Russians.
Yeah, right.
No turtles.
What were you supposed to be doing in Greece? There was no war in Greece, was there?
No, there wasn't. There was. I guess it doesn't matter now. Yeah, there was a. We were going to do an amphibious landing through Greece into Kosovo. And so I was taking pictures along the coastline going into Montenegro for this possible thing
for
that
a
could
landing.
that
So
could happen.
were you taking pictures that would be then published somewhere, or
No.
were you taking pictures for reconnaissance?
Reconnaissance
type pictures?
terms, yeah.
And where are you? What are you, in a helicopter or a boat or walking around?
I'm in a car, plain clothes, driving. I drove from Thessaloniki down to Volos, and then drove back up. Took a month to drive back up.
So who's in the car? Just you and a couple of other guys?
Just
or
me.
Just you. So you're like a spy.
I didn't look at it that way. Just looked at it as. I didn't tell anybody what I
You're
was
a
doing.
nature photographer at that point, right?
Yeah.
Well, let me ask the question
Exactly.
again. So you're like a spy.
Yeah.
No.
You're taking military photos for a military purpose from in a country that's an ally of the United States
Right.
without the permission of the country.
Oh no, they
You
knew,
do
they
not
knew it.
have
They
to
knew you.
answer
They
that
knew it.
question.
Yeah.
Let me advise
My
you.
attorney is.
You do not.
They knew.
They knew.
They knew I was there.
Okay,
I
so
was
you know
working.
it's-
I was working under NATO at the time as well, so everything was fine. But
What did you do all day? You got up in the morning and
drove to the next location. Sometimes it was weird. Like, I remember one night I had to go some beach. There was a SEAL team that was camping out. It was like 2 a.m. I had to go find them, and I just had like a general location of where they were. So I'm out there.
did they give you a phone number? Like,
No, and that's actually what they told me when they found me, is that they didn't give you a GPS. I'm like, no, and I'm like I'm sitting in the car outside this field where I think they are, and I'm flashing my lights on and off,
waiting to get shot by
basically.
He was a spy, by the way. That's Cold War stuff.
That's spy
right there.
stuff, yeah. And I'm walking out there and through this field, and I'm waiting, and I'm just kind of like looking for them, and I'm like, these guys are just gonna tackle me or something, I don't know. But I finally see them, and I'm like, hey, I'm an American.
Hi, SEAL team.
Hey, buddies.
It's just me.
And they were
camera.
they were actually just as scared as I was.
No way. That's not a good sign for the
No, they'd
security of the United States.
no.
So the SEAL team was like the ace guys, right? They're scared of a guy out there with flashing his lights.
No, they had just gotten back from the strip club in Thessaloniki.
It's
With the empty
They
guitar
thought
case
you were
and
the
turtle.
MPs. They thought you were an MP.
yeah. I'm not going to tell you what they were doing. They weren't doing anything like illegal drugs or anything like that. But they were.
I hadn't
They were
even thought of that.
having
Campfire.
a they were
Nice
having a,
campfire.
they were having a little camp out there and having a good time.
So they got hookers and stuff out there?
No. It's just,
Well, it's the army. You're allowed to do that, aren't you?
Secret.
they'd
So we were going to invade.
they made friends with a local like bed and breakfast type place, and they were allowed to take all their alcohol, and
Okay.
and so they were just sitting around drinking. So when I found them, they were like, oh, you're not gonna tell, and they're like,
Oh, I see. So this is our crack military. This is the most highly trained, most effective guys in the United States military.
it's only taken like
So, like, I
half
haven't
a
even
drink,
finished a
half
beer,
a drink.
yeah.
I'm giving away all the state secrets.
Yeah, this is like 60 minutes here. So okay, so you're out there, wandering around Greece. I don't even know how we got onto Greece here, but
I don't either.
somehow we were talking about.
Oh yeah, I was talking about how I forget things about that time.
Yeah, I'd forgotten why we were talking about it.
Yeah.
You guys remember why we were talking about that?
Well, you asked.
What's your name? I forgot.
So yeah,
okay.
but I was
back to the movie.
Yeah,
No.
so I was in Volos, and I was in Volos, and I was saying that I forget things about what happened back then, and I was in Volos,
you were saying.
and I was in a Zodiac in a joint Greek and U.S. Marine exercise, and I was looking through some pictures, and I found this picture I thought was kind of cool from that, and all of a sudden I remembered that I almost died that day, and I forgot, like it completely just slipped my mind.
How many times have you almost died in combat?
Apparently, I don't know. But
Well, we don't know. That's right. Well, tell us what happened.
well, they say I remember I was sitting on this little Zodiac, and we're like floating around out there, running around, and I see there's another one that's coming at us, and I'm taking pictures of it and having to, I'm like, oh, these are gonna be so cool, and then and it's getting closer and coming right at us, and I'm looking at it and thinking that guy's not turning, and he didn't, and so finally, like right before he hit us, I just screamed. And it's like, everybody get down, and everybody just didn't even think about it, just hit it, and he hit us from the side. And but if we were all just standing there, I mean, I don't know if we would have died necessarily.
There's
But
another fascinating story here. Let me just get this straight. You're in a Zodiac, which is a dinghy, like an inflatable dinghy type thing?
something like that. We were letting the Greeks drive that one at the time.
Who's in it besides you? You're the photographer, but what other military personnel?
I had, I think it was all U.S. Marines. Maybe a couple Greeks were with us too.
Okay. So U.S. Marines are floating around out in the ocean. And
We
the
were-
only guy who says, look out, we're all going to be killed is the photographer.
Well, I'm the only one looking around.
What are the other guys doing?
They're looking forward.
I'm a little
I see.
scared.
So this
living
guy was
here
trying
now.
to ram you. Was he on purpose?
No,
or?
he just he was learning how to drive the.
Oh, I thought it
boat.
was going to be a terrorist.
No. It was actually a friend.
My friend. Long time no see.
Okay, so let's go back a little bit. So you're in bed.
Yeah.
You're thinking,
And so
why don't I write a movie about
A war. That's never
in which the
happened.
United States has been overrun by the Soviet Union, which
Right.
is, of course, by that time there was no Soviet
no,
Union.
they're
right?
gone.
So suppose the Soviet Union won, and the president of the United States is Ivan something or other, the
Correct.
terrible,
Right.
and you're living down here, and we've had Hurricane Katrina.
Correct.
So this is a Hurricane Katrina story in Soviet America.
Right. So the Soviets pretty much abandoned this.
Fucking awesome.
It really
already,
is.
right?
I'm
Okay,
telling you, you're
okay.
already into the story.
You've
You
already
don't need-
shot this movie. This is a movie that exists, right?
It's shot. It's sitting
Yeah.
on a hard drive, but sadly enough, as
Okay, so get to the really crazy part of the story here. What is the sadly enough story?
the sadly enough thing is we didn't know what we were doing, and so basically all the sound was stolen. Yeah.
Well, now that's what I read this in your
Yeah.
bio. It says the sound was stolen. What does that mean?
It means that someone stole the sound.
But what does the sound look like? Is it a separate?
It's on
I'm
a hard
following
drive.
that. I'm following that.
Yeah, it's on a drive, and so our sound guy apparently had it with him at some at like the R bar or something, and he
Be
was.
careful. Be very careful.
Yeah.
Was it actually the R bar?
I believe it was, but I'm not 100%. You know,
Okay. Or it might not have been the R
it
bar.
might not have been the R bar. Could have been the B bar.
Okay. We have to be very careful about what we say.
Now I
Okay.
have to ask: is that an
Paul.
insurmountable obstacle, though?
Well, we never planned on the sound, the camera sound being used. So we didn't want to use it, and so that's all we have. It was only there for reference. So that's all we have to go off of. So some of it actually sounds decentish, and some of it's completely horrible. And
So we just made to ask you a question about making a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Michael, you might be able to answer this better. So you see with guys shooting movies, they have like a big boom microphone.
Yeah,
hanging
yeah,
over
yeah,
something.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's-
that's the sound you're recording to
Correct.
use.
Yeah.
So that's the sound that's been stolen.
right.
Okay, so what
The
happens
good
when-
sound.
when you see a movie, these documentaries about how they make movies, they have like a recording studio afterwards, and everyone dubs the sound in over again, don't they?
Well, there's
Well,
like
now you're
That's
going to
what I
deal with
heard.
his budget issue, and it's about like how much
Well,
what
but-
resource do you have? So what probably happened is you didn't have that. It was stolen before the sound was actually synced up. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
Okay.
so they had filmed. You had filmed the movie, and at that point, somebody essentially just downloads all the data from
Right.
this hard drive onto another hard drive where they actually sync up the sound with the picture.
Okay.
And you actually do have camera sound, and he's right. It's usually pretty crappy because you don't ever intend on using the camera sound.
Okay.
And so he had the unfortunate experience before somebody synced up his sound to the actual picture, it got pinched.
Right.
And
But the
so what
sound
do you
is-
do?
Well,
Cry.
That's my question.
Cry.
No, but hang on.
Yes.
No, you're thinking the same thing, right, Paul?
Dub
These
the-
guys
dub the
go
whole
into a
movie.
recording studio and they dub every
yeah.
line.
Well,
over.
you can do ADR. I mean, it's really hard.
What's
I mean,
ADR
that's
for our listeners.
I don't remember what it stands for now, but
The agency of
yeah, yeah, you can
something recording.
You're basically dubbing your own voice into it again. But I
But
mean,
could-
like Brando did it all the time. But then you look at there's some movies like I think it was Godfather. It was actually like some pretty terrible sound in some of that because he would mumble his lines on purpose in order to do ADR later on.
But ADR, so ADR is the name of going back in and doing this. So why couldn't you do that? I mean, I can't think of a better Kickstarter story than you sitting here telling the story and someone stole our sound. Everybody's going to give you $25 for that.
That's true. I mean, that's a pretty good idea. We've decided we're just going to get creative with it and see what we can pull out, and then we might have to do some ADR.
What's the alternative? What do you
I think. Well, we're looking into all
Music.
that. We're in our
Paul,
we're in our
I can hook you
we're
up.
in our
Sound
fourth sound guy right now that's trying to fix it.
Ooh.
And at this point I already know the answer every time. So
Can't do much with it.
Can't do much
Sorry.
with it,
Michael,
you know.
Michael's a film producer. He's produced tons of movies.
It's
He's
a hard.
rescued-
It's
he's
a tough one.
rescued
That's so we were running around in Kenya, in the
Yeah.
highlands of Kenya,
Yeah.
and one of the issues is so we filmed all this fantastic stuff. How do we get it back to the United States? So it's a problem that you deal with, and you try to you hopefully get lucky and you don't have a problem with it. But we what we did was we strapped it to the back of a camel, and then that camel passed it on to a carrier pigeon, and the carrier pigeon passed it on to a goat, and then the goat passed it on to a buffalo. The buffalo ended up in the middle of the city getting hit by a bus. And so the bus driver picks it up and takes it over to the cab driver. The cab driver brings it to the hotel, and the hotel flies it back to the U.S. So it worked perfect for us.
That was a good. That's a good system.
So that's my system.
I need to get out of
It's
that
foolproof. It's pretty much foolproof.
Well,
so
let's just get on to Africa in a minute before we
Yeah.
get, and we've got so much to cover here, but
Yeah.
just before we get off the subject
Yeah.
forever, is it actually possible to do this, Michael, to recreate the entire sound in a recording studio and
Yeah.
dub it onto the movie?
it is for
forensic.
sure. But
It
what
is.
you
Okay.
lose is this. You lose, number one, the ephemeral sense of like acting in the moment, which right? That's
Right.
one of the senses
Well, that's
you lose.
gone. That's gone.
Right, but you also lose are ambient sounds and other sounds that are kind of natural. So you have to recreate everything.
Yeah.
Not only do you have to recreate his dialogue, my dialogue, your dialogue,
all
your
the foliage
dialogue,
and everything.
you got to do everything over. And
You've got to go out with a little handheld recorder and get the ambient
start from
sound
scratch.
and all that.
Yeah,
crap.
every
So essentially
every
you
step,
start from scratch.
everything.
So isn't it just a money and time issue then?
Yeah, I mean it's been 4 years since we started this thing, so I guess time doesn't matter anymore.
So he's down to money. Yeah.
But couldn't we
so
put it
so do the Kickstarter. Yes.
Isn't that a perfect Kickstarter project though? Really, you guys?
It is. I'm not gonna lie to you. There's a part of it
You can
where
lie if you want. It's a
Yeah.
better story.
it's a
Paul's up for it.
yeah. I mean the movie did win an Oscar, no matter what.
Exactly. Even with camera sound, it won the Sound
Such a
Academy.
great story, though, isn't it? You can hear it on Tonight Show.
It just beat out the piano for its sound.
No, but I mean there's a part where you just you start feeling really defeated about everything, and you have so many other ideas that you want to
Yeah.
get off the ground and run with that are, I mean, to be honest, I mean we've learned so much doing that we know we can do better, and we've done better since then. So you just you feel like you kind of want to move along.
I've got another great idea for
Yeah.
you.
What's that?
Okay, this is another good one. Put the whole thing on YouTube and have people send in sound.
That's not a bad idea.
It's actually a great idea.
Everybody just contribute.
Absolutely. Whatever you want to say. Go ahead and say it.
Put it in 5 minutes.
I'll break it up into sections and have
do
everybody
like a 5 minute. bit,
everybody
yeah.
dub in their own thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's such
listen,
a-
the good news story is he just said it. He learned it's the hard way, but that's the way. You learn that, listen, whenever we film something and then you're going to record sound, let's make sure that we got backups for the backups for the backups. And,
Right.
and not one person who goes to the A, B, or C bar.
A bar.
What A bar, right?
And then-
takes that stuff with him and loses it.
So the guy had your hard drive with your sound
Yeah.
in a bar having a few drinks and someone stole it, basically. So
He
what
was
happened.
he was DJing or something like that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. He was
Yeah.
a DJ in the bar.
Yeah.
Will you ever talk to that guy?
Since then, no.
Does he know who he's fucking with? That you're in combat? That you've taken out Greeks?
I actually feel really bad about it because he was a really good friend.
He's taking
And
out Greeks.
I feel like I broke up with a friend. I've never actually done that before.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, so
Well, it's such an. I'm sure he.
They don't
feels
call
bad
it, it's
too.
not friends biz, right?
yeah,
Showbiz.
yeah.
I'm sure he feels bad about it, though.
I'm
right?
sure.
Has he gone on to work in other movies, or is he washed up?
I
for it?
have no idea. He does stuff. You probably heard of him at some point. We'll talk about it later.
Well, we don't have to mention his name, but you can tell us his name if you want.
Nah, it's
Nah.
cool.
Okay, let's not be mean to him. Okay,
That's awesome.
Back to Africa.
Back to Africa.
Okay,
That's
so
gonna be the
last
name of
time last time we sat around this table,
Yeah.
you were about to go to Africa with Kenny Morrison, who's a photographer,
Yep.
and Alex Beard, who has an art gallery in the French Quarter, and
As
he
the
was-
host.
as the host of the show.
Yep.
And you had this preposterous idea that you were going to go to Kenya and shoot a pilot for a TV series about saving the African elephant.
Yeah, actually saving endangered species, but we're going to start with the
So
African
then we're
elephant.
going to do a whole series around the world for like Discovery Channel.
Yep.
And nobody was paying for this except you at this point.
Yeah. It was
Okay.
it was completely different than everything I expected, but everything I wanted. It
So
was
I saw you
fantastic.
drive away from the curb here on Aretha Castle Haley Boulevard. That's the last time I saw you. What happened?
Good question. What happened? You know what was? I don't know. I'm going to try to encapsulate it, and then we'll kind of talk about it in some detail. So what happened was, it's really hot. You're up in the altitude, like 6,000 feet, and so and it's intense. It was a very intense experience for everybody. We had a New Orleans crew. We were used to the heat, prepared for the heat. What we weren't prepared for were some of the other elements, like how hard it was to get from place to place. The continent is so huge, African continent is so massive that there isn't any quick way to do anything. Like everything takes a Herculean effort. So we'd find this fantastic story, and we're just talking about Somalia, right? And so just a quick example, we found out that there were going to be 4 of these tribal chiefs who kind of dominate the northern Kenya, northeast Kenya terrain, that they were going to be meeting in one place in this little frontier town northeast of us, close to the Somali border, in what they call Kenyan Somaliland. And so we thought, you know what, let's go check that out. It can't be, we can try to figure out how to get there. And somebody said, okay, well, great. Well, I'll organize this and we'll get a van and it'll take us about, 8.5 hours to drive up there in the van. And by the way, there really aren't any roads, so it may take us more than that because the roads could be impassable. And by the way, we're probably going to be visited by pirates or bandits on the way up there. So we have an armed military guard with us, which we do, and that's fine because our, they have weapons and we'll have weapons too. So that shouldn't be a big issue, not a huge issue. We can deal with that. And we may get up there and they may not actually even be there. It may have been yesterday or it may have been 2 days from now. And so one of the fun things that I had as a producer was the opportunity to say, you know what, fuck it, let's do it. And so instead of driving, we flew everywhere. So we would literally meet these wild bush pilots, people who've been living in Kenya for years, some former American soldiers, right? There's all these kind of special forces guys who are out in the middle of nowhere. And what they do is they come up to you and say hey man, you want me to show you where you can buy some used weapons? No, I'm filming a movie, man. I don't want to buy any weapons. I don't want to do any drugs. I don't want to do any of that shit. I just want to shoot a film. And somebody would be like, okay, I'll fly you guys up there. So we get in this plane and we fly up there. And this is what everybody says up there. Listen, let me do the talking, okay? Let me get up there and do the talking. And you're like, God, I wish I spoke Swahili or one of the 47 other tribal languages that they speak. And then you realize everybody speaks English. Everybody. So even the Somalis, even the most remote tribesmen up there, they have some English. And so I didn't like other people doing their talking for me because they were all negotiating, right? They're all negotiating okay, take the guy in the green shirt and 2 goats and we're good. I think I'm the guy in the green shirt. I don't want to stick around here. So, we had some fantastic experiences. We really literally went up there. We're in the middle of we're on the equator in northeastern Kenya, dealing with people who don't see cameras and camera crews and heavy armory that we had with us to protect us. And everybody to a person was incredibly generous.
Did you see elephants?
We were attacked by wild elephants. We were attacked by wild dogs. We saw animals doing what animals do in the wild. I mean, that's the purpose of going there, was to film and experience nature in harmony, what it is to be an animal, and the people who live with animals in harmony.
You were attacked by wild elephants.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I'm sure all the elephants are wild by definition because they're
well, you know what's
living out
funny?
there.
I mean, we've always seen elephants in the zoo, right? And they always have this kind of predictable behavior. It's the behavior of something that's captive,
Right.
And it's kind of like this monotonous. They have ticks, really,
they're quite benign looking.
Well, that's because they're Asian elephants. It's one of the first things I realized, these elephants are totally different. And you look at an African elephant and it's robust and it's got massive ears and it's got massive tusks and they're aggressive. They're aggressive. They don't like people. They don't like people being around them. And they remember the last time they saw a person that was shooting at them,
Right.
or it actually shot one of their
Do
relatives.
they understand you're trying to save them, or you
No,
couldn't
they
get a
didn't.
message across
The
before
elephants
they
I
come
spoke
charging?
with, the elephants I spoke with wanted to have nothing to do with me. They thought I was an interloper. They didn't like my accent, any of that stuff. So
What happens when a wild elephant is it coming towards you with its
Yeah.
head down, with its tusks?
So these are some of the things you learn while you're in the bush, right? So there's predictable behavior from an animal. The elephant that charged us, came through our camp in the middle of the day, was in the forest. It was in where he was supposed to be. We were somewhere where we probably shouldn't have been. He was doing his thing. And he stumbled across us, and one of our sound guy was on the satellite phone talking to his wife, and a massive elephant walked right in front of him. And he literally was talking to his wife. He said, honey, there's an elephant walking right in front of me. And then the elephant saw him and immediately panicked and said, this is not someplace where I want to be, and turned hard and turned in the direction of 2 of our other crew members. And they were sitting under a tree, relaxing, essentially. It was the hottest part of the day. We were taking it easy. We had just finished eating. And Gabby Velasquez, who's a fantastic New Orleans filmmaker, was literally climbed up a tree because an elephant charged at him. The elephant saw our camera equipment and didn't know what to make of that, so turned and then turned towards me. And I was sitting in our camp, and I could hear this massive animal tearing up these bushes, and it broke right through the bushes. And I looked up, and there was a 15, 16-foot elephant charging right at me, saw all of our tents, and thankfully turn to the right instead of turn towards me. And
I hope someone filmed all that because that sounds amazing.
no,
That's almost a cartoon.
it was almost a cartoon, and it happened so fast and so suddenly that I was shocked. And then I was like, that's my Ernest Hemingway moment. I just had it. I just had it. That was it. That was the hunting of the elephant.
So how did it go with the actual plan to shoot a story about saving elephants?
It went fantastic. We lucked out. We got great interviews with people who are actually like on the ground working to save the wildlife. And one of the things we discovered was this. We thought we were going to find it when we got there, and we thankfully did. Like, there's an entire movement of what they call community conservation. And, their community's segmented. It's very tribal. And so you'll have people who live in one tribe, and I'm a Samburu tribal, I'm a warrior, and you're a Turkana warrior, and you're a Somali warrior.
Is this like an improv bit we're going to do?
No, it's not. But it's like
sure.
they take it seriously, right? And so they're warriors. And so I'm going to steal your cattle. As a matter of fact, I'm going to steal all your cattle, and I may kill you if you come after me. And I've been doing that for hundreds of years, and you've been doing that to me too. And so instead of doing that anymore, they've decided, listen, let's stop killing each other and robbing from each other, and let's try to save the wildlife and work together.
Hey,
so
can
we
I
have
just
warriors.
stop you for a second there?
Yeah.
How do they get to that point? Because that would be a good lesson to learn for all of us. How they
Well,
figure
I
that
actually
out?
thought that they had a parallel to like the drug wars that we've got, right? So instead of essentially killing each other to work together to some end, and it actually takes quite severe leadership. And so what they've got over there that we don't have here is a tremendous respect for the elders in their community. And they have this mysticism too, so that this is a real story. So two of the young guys decided to spear an elephant. They wanted the $65,000 or $100,000 that comes along with taking the tusks of a real old bull elephant. And they did. They speared the elephant, and they had cut the face off. And what happens is they literally just cut the face out of an elephant. So you save the rest to rot, and you just cut the face out. It's one of these horrifying things. When you see it, you just don't forget it.
You saw that, actually.
Oh yeah, it's unfortunate we saw too much of it. And so these two guys speared an elephant, they cut the face out, and then they panicked, and they didn't sell the tusks to the Somalis who live in these little Somali towns outside of the area where we were, because one of the elders said, if anybody in my tribe has killed this elephant and taken the tusks, I'm going to put a spell on you, and your entire family forever is going to be cast under the spell, and you'll always be poor, and you'll never have any wealth, and no one will ever respect you. And the two guys immediately confessed. And so it's one of those stories, like, they really believed, number one, they had respect for this guy to say whatever he was saying, and then they actually took it to heart. They volunteered, they said it was us, and they turned themselves in. So for those types of systems to work, this voluntary system of
But what you're talking about there is a faith-based system where you believe in something, and you believe that if I do something wrong, I'm going to be punished, not by being put in jail or being killed, but by actually because I've transgressed the faith that I believe in.
Yeah, I mean so
that's like a religious.
It was a pretty powerful experience, meeting the people, having the opportunity to talk to them about, their faith, their not only their faith system but their cultural systems. And respect is an enormous both weapon and shield over there. Like, elders are held in great esteem, and so if you're the guy who controls your area, you control it from the top to the bottom. And so,
how do you get that job? You're born into that?
I don't know. I think
You
you're the
kill
toughest
people?
guy.
You're
So
the
we would meet
right.
people, and we had guys with us, and you could tell like there was a hierarchy there. That the toughest guy was allowed to grow their hair long, and they kept it in a bun, and everybody else had their head shaved, and they had one guy who was allowed in the group to be the guy.
And how do you get to be that guy? Do you have to be the strongest
think
person
they're-
or the most convincing, or
Well,
what is it?
I think it, from my perspective, it looked like dominant personality. You could tell not only were they physically able to match everybody else, but I think psychologically they had a charisma type thing, that they were the most dominant people.
And this is the guy that's going to put a hex on you.
Yeah, or put a hatchet on you.
But he's the guy that was going to put the hex on the other guys for cutting an elephant's face
Yeah,
off.
but I also do think he could also throw what they call the rungaroo at you and knock your skull out.
Right.
I mean, they were all very proficient at weaponry. I mean, they all they were shooters, and everybody carried a cell phone, a knife, and a gun.
A cell phone, a knife, and a gun.
Yep.
Not that dissimilar from Central City, New
Well,
Orleans.
it could be. It could be.
The place of faith in our society and what binds us together is a pretty interesting. I mean, it's as powerful as any of the other tools that binds us together. If that's what you're saying, that's what stops people. Because, Paul, I was reading in the stuff that you have on your website here, it says, I don't know what to read, but it said, you said, I learned through these years growing up here to treasure my hyper-literal, overly ambitious, loose-wire adolescent adventures in attempting to out-Jesus even Jesus.
Mm.
Well, I don't know whether you said that or someone else.
That was
said
our
that.
drummer, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it was very similar upbringing, yeah. Well,
So you grew up in what you describe here as eccentric Christianity.
yeah.
What is
So-
the definition of eccentric Christianity?
Well, you know, I grew up going to church like 3-4 times a week. Of course, you know, I was immersed in that culture and kind of in youth group culture. I mean, the Bible Belt part that reaches into this city, I was certainly a part of that. And our drummer was as well. He grew up in Springfield, Missouri, but kind of in the same sort of this is sort of charismatic Christian thing that happened in the 80s and 90s. Certainly my family was a part of that. And so, yeah, I was exposed to all that. And it just made for some very unique experiences. But, yeah, it was certainly, my parents kind of grew up and were a product of the Jesus movement. That kind of happened in the 70s. So that particular generations of parents were very hell-bent, if that's the right word, to raise their
Heaven
kids.
bent, I think.
Heaven
Yeah.
bent would probably be better.
Yeah.
But although we had quite a healthy fear of hell, which certainly helped be a good motivator. You know, Jesus was coming back at any second, so you had to make sure everything
And
was right.
you believe
At
that?
all. Oh, yeah,
This
absolutely.
is the same sort of put a hex on you type faith.
Yeah. And it's certainly effective. I don't know ultimately if it's the most healthy way to look at things, but
As a
it was a
societal,
means to an end.
yeah, and as a societal weapon to keep people in line, it's a tremendously effective weapon, right?
But everybody has to buy into it, though. You have to all believe that you're going to go to hell or you're going to be saved by Jesus, right? For it
Sure.
to work.
Right.
Did you grow up? Were your parents growing up in you grew up in the Jimmy Swaggart era?
Yeah. Oh, I worshiped Jimmy Swaggart, Marvin Gorman, who was the local guy. They were the second coming of Jesus.
Did you go to those services with Jimmy Swaggart
yeah.
and Marvin? Well, you were there.
Oh yeah, I was there.
What was that like as a kid? Did you believe it?
It was. Well, of course I did. Yeah, I mean, I was very impressionable. I mean, these preachers were rock stars, you know.
Was
And,
Bono and
It
Jimmy
was-
Swaggart?
Yeah, it really was. Yeah, that's what I've aspired to be. I wanted
Could
to
you
be
have
the melding
gone?
of Bono and
Could
Jimmy
you have
Swaggart.
gone the Jimmy Swaggart way, and instead of thinking Bono was the guy to emulate?
I guess it's very possible. Certainly, my grandmother would have loved to have seen that. But yeah, I remember that was the whole thing. You know, bodyguards used to bring in Marvin Gorman, and you know the whole thing was if you could just get him to look your way and just send a blessing, and he would pray for you. And my grandmother was so excited one time she got Marvin Gorman to put his hand on me and pray for me. I was just like
Maybe
5
that's
or
what
something.
did it.
Maybe so. Maybe
That's why you're
And
a
all this
rock
time.
star today.
That's why I've learned to treasure it. What was the quote?
What did Marvin Gorman look like? I don't know him at all. Do you guys
Oh,
know
man,
him?
he looked like what
I don't
every televangelist looked like from the 80s. you
With
know.
like a senator.
Everybody
kind.
wanted to be like Jim
Looked like-
Baker at that point.
Like,
Like
yeah.
a senator.
Didn't they look like
Exactly.
U.S. senators with the great hair and the nice
course.
suit?
Yeah.
And the,
He looked just like Trent Lott. Just like
that's kind
Senator
of what it
Trent
looked
Lott.
like, right? That was kind of the
They were
look.
like Elvis senators.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
And
That's awesome.
Did they make it? They made a lot of money. That was what they were all about, right? Those guys.
Yep. And gosh, it was prostitution that brought him down. Look at that.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah,
That was the whole
That's
controversy that.
Right. That was it. Brought down Jimmy Swaggart. Has
Yeah,
he
and
gone?
Marvin Gorman, I
And
believe.
I don't know who Marvin. What happened? He
It happened like within the same year. It was crazy.
He was on Airline Highway as well. No, motel on Airline.
Exactly.
That's where Jimmy Swaggart.
Don't
caught
plan
him.
a church on Airline Highway. That's the moral of the story.
And what's up with the family now? Is your family still connected with all that stuff? Or have they left
No,
it
I mean
behind?
it's
or-
certainly dispersed. I mean that whole particular church movement is
It's
kind
all
of gone
gone.
away with. Yeah,
Right.
it's a different scene now, but it's still a fairly decent church-going kind of
Right.
family.
And you've maintained some sort of relationship with that life as well, right?
Yeah.
You haven't left it totally all behind just
No, no,
because
no,
you're
no,
a
no.
rock star.
No, I certainly. I'm a dad now. You know, I have a little girl, 2 years old. So all those things. You want to bring them up in
Right.
some sort of.
Yeah, you have to make a choice about that. Michael, what do you bring up your kids? What religion?
Well, we're still looking at some of the Eastern African religions as an option.
What are they called? The one that you can put a
Well, they have all
if you could put a
different
hex on those little kids.
We're going to
of
have to
yours,
take
it'd
him
be
to
awesome.
Mount Kenya. We're going to take him to Mount Kenya. We're going to sacrifice the goat and drink the blood of the goat. So
You have to
See
drink.
what works.
yeah, we're going to just check it
Renzo,
out.
you got any,
And it's always
experience?
good to keep your options open.
Especially if it involves killing a goat and drinking its blood.
Right.
That would sort of change your opinion about religion. Renzo, what have you seen in your travels
As far as religion
as far as
goes,
religion and faith that works?
none of it works.
Okay.
I'm a pretty stout atheist, actually. So,
How did you prove that God doesn't exist?
I prove it the same way that you can't prove that he does exist. I don't care.
Okay.
So, I mean, the truth of the matter is, on a good day, as far as for that argument goes, I guess I would consider myself agnostic. But honestly,
That's on a good day. Okay.
yeah. But honestly, like
When you're feeling tolerant and open-minded.
exactly.
When
But
the guy stole the sound, he was definitely an atheist.
I was definitely an atheist. And that was
That day
What
was-
about, hey, here's an idea. What if you prayed to something and the sound came back?
if that was to happen.
God's love is endless.
You know what? It's still
Why don't we all hold hands?
His mercies,
Renzo, come
his
on.
mercies are endless.
actually
Love is
like,
infinite.
I'm only like half kidding about that. Imagine if you did actually light a candle or drink the blood of a goat or do something or go to a voodoo ceremony or pray to Jesus or something,
Right.
and the sound, you pick one,
right, and then the sound
and
suddenly
some
showed up.
a miraculous thing
I
happened.
quite honestly believe that the sound would have came back regardless of what I did. If
But
it
it's
just
too late for it to come back by itself now. It's never going to come back. It would be a miracle, right?
it would have to. Jesus would have to come down himself and hand it to me before I believed it.
Gosh, I was about to offer my services to help bring sound back to his movie. I guess I should.
No, you could be the
This is my
second coming
chance.
of Jesus.
I can score for Team
yes,
Jesus.
Yes, you can finally out Jesus.
This is it.
There you go.
Jesus didn't come through, but Paul Meany from
Thanks, Marvin
Mutemath
Gorman.
came through.
Yeah.
You can go through and do all the voices though. It'd be kind of funny. Because I actually thought of doing that myself.
Do all the voices. Well, where
I
are
was
you
just
now?
being
What's
funny.
going on with you? Well, we have to wrap up here in a second.
Oh,
But
yeah.
what's going on with your movie, the current movie, then?
The I Am Luchador?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that one seems like it's going to be really fun because that's actually that goes back to religion in a lot of ways because it is a mix between The Last Temptation of Christ. Do you remember that movie? The Last Temptation of Christ, Jacob's Ladder. I don't know if you remember that movie or not.
Yes.
And Mexican wrestling. So
Nice.
It's a natural segue.
it's
I would go back to the same question I had earlier. As I don't believe that you're not doing any drugs at all. This is all just from your imagination
exactly.
And he is a spy.
And I'm a spy.
and a spy from the United States.
Right. So yeah, it's just it's a story about this luchador who's fighting his last fight. He's offered a bribe from the Mexican drug cartel to lose the fight, and if he wins the fight, he makes all this money. Or if he wins the fight, they kill him, and if he loses the fight, he makes all this money. So
Wow, if he wins the fight, the drug cartel is going to kill him.
exactly. So he dies a hero and a champion.
Oh, I gave it away.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
or he lives and he's rich, but he lives with the guilt of what he's done. And so
Which would you take?
Yes.
Let's go around the table.
Well-
Paul?
Death by Unga Bunga.
there's more to it, though. Of course, when
Who
it all
wants to
comes
die?
down, he's on the mat. He's getting pinned, and he's thinking about this is the moment where he has to make that decision. And the 1 count, the 2 count comes down, and then before the 3 count falls, he closes his eyes for a second, and he sees this future of his life if he loses. And he's living in New Orleans, and he's he's drinking a lot and drugs, he's womanizing. It sounds great, honestly, but then
Is that Casa Borrega where
Yeah.
they speak a lot of Spanish?
yeah, exactly.
So he'd feel at home.
Maybe we use this as a location. I've never been in here, but then he finds love in it, and he starts finding himself again and what being a hero really means and what he would be willing to do for love. And so that's where at the end, that's how he makes his decision on what he's going to do.
And is this so? A lot of the movie is a flashback.
I would
Of the
say,
decision that he
yeah,
has to
like
make
there's
in that
the
second?
beginning where he's given the opportunity, and then there's the beginning of the fight. Then the bulk of it would be that flashback of him living in this dream, basically. So he's wearing a mask the entire time. He's wearing a luchador mask the whole time, and a lot of people kind of that have read it don't understand that. And I try to explain he's in a dream, and that's how he sees himself. And they're like, well, we need to see his face. I'm like, you don't need to see his face, because it comes up as part of the story that he never even understood who he really was, and so he is unmasked eventually. But
So this is this is a guy searching for himself.
Exactly. You know,
And how much of this is you?
oh, I'm sure there's plenty of me hidden in there in places. But then, you know, I draw a lot, though. To be honest, I learned a long time ago, learn the most you can from other people's mistakes. You know, so I listen to a lot of people's stories, and I take a lot of that in. So you can't write anything really without putting a little bit of yourself into it. And so, yeah, I'm definitely in there, but it's not 100% me.
It's not a story about you and the search for yourself.
No, not necessarily. I mean, I was never given the opportunity to do any of that. I would have definitely made the bad decision.
Not yet. Not yet. There's always hope.
Yeah, if you're talking about Hollywood,
That's
yeah.
true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, so
Listen,
that's
there's a
not-
great story here, though, that you got to remember whenever you're kind of like marching forward in the film business is never trust anybody else with your sound shit.
That's from years of
there-
experiences.
there's a whole new plan for all that.
Yeah, believe me, trust me. You put it on the back of an elephant, then
Right.
it kind of runs it to a giraffe, then gets it to a
Michael,
goat.
what are you doing now with this then? So
We're
you
editing.
shot this. You shot the pilot.
Yeah.
You came back alive. Nobody got killed because I was determined somebody was going to get killed. on
Nobody
this
got
trip.
killed. No one had any malaria problems or anything like that. We actually all came back really excited. We're going to do a couple more interviews in the United States. As a matter of fact, there was an article yesterday about Hillary Clinton signing on and meeting with the people we met with there, and she's now kind of into the movement to support, the African elephant. And because the question is really like, if we can't, it's like remember the whale.
Yes.
The whale was going to be extinct in the 1980s, and everybody turned their attention and said, "Wait a second! If we can't save the whale, what does that mean about us?" So we've got a couple more interviews. We're going to have something out probably mid-September for us to really take a look at. So that's really the focus right now. We're really burning to get it done and get it on TV April 14th, April of 2014, Earth Day of April 2014.
Wow! Congratulations!
Thank you.
You
It's
really
exciting.
did it. You pulled
Yeah,
it off.
Pulled it off, man.
Wow! We're looking forward to seeing what happens.
Me
then with
too.
that.
Me
What's
too.
the name of the project?
Drawing the line.
Drawing the line.
It's about a guy who's an artist who goes to the, African wilderness to find this beautiful, pristine piece of wilderness and to live in harmony with nature and find out how it's done and art and nature and all in balance.
Drawing the line.
Yeah, drawing the
Okay.
line.
Congratulations! You
Thank
pulled
you.
it off. How
Pulled it off.
amazing! Paul, tell us about Mutemath. Where are you guys and what's happening?
We're in the middle of making our new record, and about to go back to Australia. I'm going to do a little tour out there. There's a Harvest Festival in Australia. We still won't get to see New Zealand.
Well, you can
We'll
almost
get
see
there one
it.
day.
Yeah.
We're going to India this year, and I'll play our first show out there.
You're playing in India.
Yeah, looking forward to that. So
That's cool.
get to see a little more of the world this year.
Yeah. I'm sure we
awesome.
only got to hear one song off this awesome album, Odd Soul. But you can get it wherever good downloads are sold and
Yeah.
the odd record store that still exists in the United States. It's spelled ODD, soul, not Old Soul, but Odd Soul.
Yep.
God, you guys, thank you so much for joining me here.
Oh,
on
thanks
Happy
for having
Hour
us.
today.
That's great.
What a great hour. I think we only went down one road. We could have done this whole thing a whole different. Well, maybe we have to have everybody back and do it all over again.
Sure.
Let's do it.
Thank you so much. My special guests on Happy Hour have been Paul Meany from Mutemath, Michael Arata from Drawing the Line, and Renzo Amariz, whose new movie is I Am Luchador, about a man in a mask. The producer of our show is Graham DePonte. Our associate producer and technical director is Chris Kehoe. Christian Unruh is our music director, and our Link to the Real World and web designer is the fabulous Dr. Cliff Brigden. Mitch Foreman wrote and is currently playing the theme song you're listening to. The fabulous audio quality of this show is brought to you in part by PreSonus Audio Electronics. PreSonus makes some of the best audio recording and live sound products around, including Studio One music production software, Studio Live digital mixing consoles, Eris studio monitors, and much more. You can visit PreSonus.com for more info about that. If you'd like to be on our show and you can stay upright for about an hour, drop us a line. Our address is on our website. You can check out our other happy hours on our website. There's tons more shows to listen to, as well as Out to Lunch with Peter Raschuti live from Commander's Palace, Mindset with psychiatrist Dr. Nick Pajek, True to the Game with Chris True and Tammy Nelson, Vietnola, our show about the New Orleans Vietnamese community, and Midnight Menu Plus One with Margot Moss and the man who ate New Orleans, Ray Canardi. You can keep up with us on Facebook, Twitter, and a bunch of other time-sucking social media as well. On all of them, we're called It's New Orleans. If you listen to this show on iTunes or Stitcher, thank you for subscribing. Take a moment to rate and review us. That will help other people find us. Our show is recorded live today at Casa Borrega on Aretha Castle Haley Boulevard. At Felicity, you can come here and check out the awesome menu, live music, and get a cocktail as well. It's also open for brunch on Sundays. Happy Hour is a production of INO Broadcasting for itsneworleans.com. For Andrew Duhon, who's somewhere in Europe, Mitch Foreman is on the piano, everyone back at the INO office and sitting around here at Casa Borrega, I'm Grant Morris. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time on Happy Hour.
Let's be honest, there are tons of ways to send money back home, and every company promises me the same things: good rates and safe transfers. That's why it can be overwhelming to choose a new way to send money. I switched to Remitly because I can track my money every step of the way, which means I know exactly when my mom will get her money. And with their extensive payment network, my mom can receive her money in a way that is more convenient and safe for her. You should check it out. Go to Remitly.com or download their app to get started. Remitly Inc. is a licensed money transmitter by the state of New York, California, Massachusetts, and other states.